We're live.
Yeah.
We already have a couple people in here. Sometimes they trickle in a little bit late. But you guys, I am so excited. This is actually, I didn't even know if I told you, Gabby, but you're the last one of the series that we've done.
Really? Oh, that's fun.
We've done about 13 weeks of these, and tonight is the last one. There's going to be a lot more webinars, but of the Tuesday night series. And so I'm so excited to end with a bang with Gabby, who's a personal friend of mine. And also, I'm really excited because I feel like you're the first person on here that's also coming from a patient perspective when it comes to wellness and health, which is really exciting to me. So she's a speaker. She is a wellness and lifestyle coach. She's an event curator. She's the founder of the Well Scene, which we're going to talk all about. And did you see the cup I'm drinking out of?
I did. I noticed. I was like, yeah, girl.
So this is from the Well Scene, and I literally drink it every single day. But I wanted to first start, and this is recorded, so some of people will watch the recording later.
Awesome.
Or join in. But for those that are in the room, if at any time you want to write in the chat box, please do. This is really informal and we'll go in any direction people want us to go. But first, I want to hear a little bit more about your background. I don't want to talk for you I know you had a 4-year kind of journey to get to this place. So let us hear kind of what got you passionate about wellness.
Yeah. First of all, I want to thank you for letting me do this because it gave me an opportunity to wear pants for the first time in several weeks. So this is 2020. So I guess, I was just your average person. I graduated college. I went to Kennesaw State and got a PR degree. I was in sales at ADP. I sold payroll for a while. And then one day I got sick. I was eating a taquito at a restaurant in Woodstock, which I won't say the name of it because they're popping up everywhere. But I got food poisoning and I had a raw chicken taquito, and that day literally changed my life. And from that moment, I started having really bad stomach issues. My thyroid went out. I ended up getting an autoimmune disease. I lost a lot of weight. So that really started my journey to wellness. I grew up in South Georgia and we had fried chicken all the time, and we had, banana pudding. We didn't eat healthy. There wasn't greens for dinner. That we were not a rich family by any means, so drive-throughs and pizza, that's all we ate. So I literally knew nothing about wellness. I knew nothing about taking care of myself, and it was kind of like the universe was like, hey, you got to get it together. So as awful as it was, it was a blessing. It really changed my life for the better.
How long did it take in that process for you to feel better or to find answers? What was that process like for you?
Well, I got sick in October of 2014, I think. And I didn't get the diagnosis that I had an autoimmune disease, that I had Hashimoto's, for a good year. And I just moved, this, and I have a binder of lab work from that whole process that was this thick. I mean, I went to 20 different doctors. I was tested for everything from HIV to lupus to Lyme. I mean, they just really had no idea what was going on. And not that doctors don't know what's going on, but they just didn't know what to look for. So it probably took a good, 2.5 years to feel like myself.
Yeah. And I was going to say, even once you have some answers, then it takes time for the healing process to start.
Yeah.
So it can be a really big journey. And so one of the things too, which I know your wellness kind of inspired you to want to share your story and to help empower other people to find health and wellness. But being the founder of Well Scene, what is that really the motivation for Well Scene, or what really inspired you to start this women's conference?
It was the hardest experience of my life to be a thriving, independent woman hustling with 3 jobs and traveling and eating like I wanted to. It was a life-changing moment for all of that to be taken away like that, right? I had to change my diet immediately. I was tired all the time. I know you know this, for a good 6 months, I didn't leave my condo. I couldn't drive, I didn't have the energy. It affected my relationship. Chris and I are married now, but at the time we were still dating when I got sick. We had only been in our relationship for 5 months. And there were times that I didn't think that we were going to make it in our relationship. So going through that experience and it affecting literally my career, my relationship with my friends, I knew that once I got better, I was like, I went through this for a reason, and I don't ever want another woman to go through what I did, right? I didn't. Like, if I could help with any details about my experience, about any of my health issues or my mental health issues, like I want to share it. And so once I healed and finally got better, I went to Emory, and that's when I got my health coaching certification. And I health coached individually for a while, and just my love of events and hosting and, just bringing what I've learned to a bigger scale was really what started Wellseen for me.
And I think there's so much energy in the masses, like I know for me, there's so much you can do with one-on-one health coaching or one-on-one functional medicine visits, but it's like you bring all these like-minded people that are on different journeys together. And that's one thing. I have been to the Wellseen for the 2 years that you've had it and the many more to come. But there's just so much energy in the room and it's so contagious. And so I kind of wanted to hear from you, because this is all about kind of redefining health and wellness. Like, what does wellness mean to you? Like, what does that look like, whether it's for you or for your clients or people at the Wellseen? Like, how would you describe wellness?
Well, the definition of wellness is being in a state of health, like being in a good state of health. And I think that looks different for everybody. And during this pandemic, one of the things that I really picked up on is everyone talking about balance. And I don't know how to say this like politely, but I think balance is bullshit, right? Because you're holding these expectations that every day someone needs to do 5 things in order to be doing wellness, or this is what you're supposed to be doing, working out and eating right and drinking this. And it's like, that causes me stress, right? Like, you're putting all these requirements onto me when that I might not even need that, right? So every single person is so different, but you have to figure out what works for you. And I know that's crap too, because it's like, well, I don't know how to do that. You have to figure out your goals and what you want your life to be, right? If you're trying to work out because you have an illness, that's your motivation. Figure out what you need to eat and, how to work out, and your mental health and self-care around that. But it has to be individualistic, right? Mine isn't the same as yours. My definition of wellness isn't the same as anyone on this webinar right now. And I think that's like really important for people to remember.
Yes. And I think one thing too, that I'm just like such an advocate for, and I know you are too, that wellness is not just the absence of disease. So just because we don't have hypertension, or we don't have a thyroid issue, or we don't have cholesterol elevation, it doesn't mean that we're healthy and well.
Right.
So one of the things like with wellness, I feel like, is like, how much do you think is mental health versus physical health? Like,
this is what I was about to talk about. So and mental health, people automatically assume it's like depression and anxiety. And that's a big part of mental health, but you can't like use that as a blanket statement. So when I finally got diagnosed with all my issues, with the SIBO, the candida, the thyroid issues, the hypothyroidism, I decided once they gave me my protocol, right, which is huge, like just massive amounts of things that I had to do internally, I decided to go on an emotional healing retreat to Costa Rica with 8 women I had never met in my life. And we went for an entire week. And that experience, coupled with everything that I was doing internally, is what healed me. I'm telling you, because I really believe that all of our inner child issues and things that we've experienced in the past, I firmly believe that takes a toll on us physically, and it takes a toll on our health. So mental health and dealing with, family issues and boundaries, and girl, I have the family issues, right? I can go on and on about my family stuff. And the moment I was able to have firm boundaries and have people respect me, and then reading books about my childhood, like things that happened to me wasn't my fault. I mean, it was the most freeing experience of my life, hands down.
How long was that in Costa Rica?
So I actually did with this practitioner, Alicia Miller. You met her at the first well scene. So
Yep.
I did a 90-day inner child workshop with her. And basically we went through my entire past. We didn't leave anything out. And any like belief that I believed, we went through, and like negative belief, right? Limiting beliefs is what they call them. I went through every single one and was like, where did that come from? How did this happen? And what is the real story? And we did that for 90 days in preparation for this 7-day retreat. And it was life-changing. It changed my life.
Did you find at the beginning it was hard to think about some of those memories from childhood and like remember some of the things that played a role on who you are today?
Yeah. Nothing is fun about that. And I will tell you that when people go through it, I have the most respect for them because none of it was fun. None of it. And I was married at the time, Chris and I were married, and, he and I worked on a lot of things because going through my sickness, I didn't think we were going to make it. And so I was holding on to some resentment from how he, dealt with my sickness. And I just had to work through literally every single issue in my life. And it is the most freeing experience I've ever had, hands down.
Is she still doing those retreats in case anybody's interested?
So funny story, she actually moved to Costa Rica with her husband, Doug, and they bought this beautiful property. I see their Instagram every day and I'm just like, bring me there. It's gorgeous. So they actually do like workshops together for couples. Chris and I went to some of their couples workshops, and you can also do one-on-one with her, and they are still doing like things in Costa Rica.
I think
it was amazing.
It's just so awesome. And I feel like too, one of the things with functional medicine that we do is we go back all the way to birth and get a timeline. And some people feel like, well, is this relevant? Like whether your parents were married or did they divorce? Were they, very argumentative when they were in the house and screaming at each other? Were you hiding under the pillow? Like all those things impact your health today. So I think mental health is so important. And I think it's an area in wellness that gets so forgotten. We talk so much about like how we should be eating and how we should be exercising and our body, but rarely talk about like, how are you actually feeling? Like, how's your mental health?
Well, you know what's crazy? So I got sick when I was 26, and my father had passed away 8 months before I got sick. And I was his only child. And I mean, he was my dad, right? And I did not handle it well. Like, I will be the first to admit it. I didn't handle it well. I didn't know how to handle it. Like, I had dealt with a lot of grief in my childhood and my early adult life. But when it comes to a parent, I didn't know how to properly grieve that experience. And to me, it's like, no wonder I got sick shortly thereafter, because I was not taking care of myself, and mentally I was a wreck. And once I started dealing with all those issues in my past and healing my physical self, that's when, the breakthrough happened. So and during my sickness, one of my best friends passed away during childbirth. So that was really challenging. And I had an aunt pass away. So I just had like a lot of things that were just heavy on my life. And when I was able to kind of lift those things and work through it and, move on, it just changed me. It really did.
Is there anything that you do now to kind of help check in on your mental health? Like, do you have any morning or nighttime routines, or do you write in a journal, or do you meet with a counselor?
So I see a shaman. I see my shaman once a week. And that he helps me with my energy. And now, how sometimes, okay, so I don't know if you like massages, right? But I love them. And when you haven't gotten a massage in maybe 6 months, you go and afterwards you're like, gosh, I didn't realize that I've been walking around like this for 6 months. Do you know what I mean? I feel like now I'm able to pinpoint those things, right? So when I go to bed at night, that's when I do my meditation, and I'm able to pinpoint, okay, I'm in a bad mood today. I talked to my mom and she kind of went over some of my boundaries and I felt disrespected. So you know what, tomorrow I'm going to talk to her about it. When before that wouldn't have been the case. So now it's just, I have the tools set in place to realize those things and realize when I don't communicate effectively, and I can apologize like, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't communicate correctly. My bad. Like, this is what I meant. So it's really just made, like, Chris and I's relationship couldn't be better at this point, just because we both worked so hard on our communication. And I mean, but to answer your question, I meditate every night. I see my shaman. I take my baths, and I really just try to check in when I'm noticing that I'm not happy.
What does meditation look like? Like, do you sit on the floor and light a candle and dim the lights, or?
No, ma'am. I literally lay in bed with my headphones in while my husband's watching something on TV with his headphones in, with my dogs on top of me and my eyes closed. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like,
it's more real life, right?
Yeah, like, wellness in the mainstream media and like Goop and like vagina candles. Like, I don't have time for that. Like, that's great for everybody if that's what you're into, but it's just not realistic. We're busy. We have stuff to do. I'm tired at night. I need to get in a 15, 20-minute meditation. The easiest way for me to do that is pop in my headphones while I'm laying in bed. I pop them out when I'm finished and I snooze. I go straight to sleep. It doesn't have to be this cross your ankles and, have jewels all over. It doesn't have to be that way.
I know. That's something that I always talk about, because for me, I always thought I needed to like sit still in silence and have this perfect environment. And it always created so much more anxiety, because I was thinking what I needed to do and I wanted to get up. And so like for me, it became meditation in motion, where I would just like go to a walk and have my earbuds and listen to Meditation Studio app or Calm or Headspace. Is there an app that you like that you listen to, or do you just listen to music? Or
So I actually follow an energy healer in Atlanta who's amazing, and her name is Janet Raftis. I love her. And Janet was part of Alicia's retreat in Costa Rica. They both taught it. So Janet does a meditation every Sunday and sends it out. And so that's what I listen to. And I'll listen to it a couple of times, like during the week. But if I've listened to that too many times, I'll listen to Calm. And I've downloaded Calm for Chris, and he's like a manly man, and getting him to meditate is an act of God. But he loves it, and we do the beginner ones together, and we just lay, and he's getting better. It's just,
I love that too, because I feel like Gabby and I are like so into the wellness space, and then your husband owns a restaurant and bar, and my husband loves to be cooking and making cocktails. And, it's really about balance, and all the changes that I know Chris, your husband's made, and Cameron's made. It's just exciting how, little by little becomes a lot.
Yeah.
So one of the things I also want to talk about is, so you mentioned that you came from like eating fried chicken and going through fast food, and then got on this health and wellness journey, which can be incredibly overwhelming. Was there, like, how did you kind of navigate the space? Like, did you have certain like resources or tools that you used, or what did that look like?
You have to, you're in this space, so you get it, but gluten-free and dairy-free and soy-free and Whole30 and like all those things, they weren't trendy 6 years ago, right? So it was 2014, the first like naturopathic holistic doctor I went to told me, and this was the first time anyone had mentioned my diet, right? They said, you're going to have to go gluten, dairy, and soy free. And I was like, what does that mean? Right. I don't even know. What does that even mean? I have no freaking idea. And so I met with the nutritionist, and she gave me probably like a 10-page pamphlet on what I couldn't eat. And I was like, okay, so process of elimination. And I remember I went home and threw everything out in my pantry, my fridge. And at that time, I really couldn't eat much anyway because my digestion was so off. But I remember just not eating for like 3 days. I didn't know what to eat, and I was scared to eat the things they told me not to. So the resources were limited 100%. So finally, and you know what's funny? So when I was 19, I moved to Kennesaw State. When I was 18, I had gotten really sick, and I went to like a med stop. And the doctor told me, he's like, you're going to have to go gluten-free at some point. Okay, I was 19. And I was like, what does that even mean? He's like, you should probably try now. And so I left there and went to Kroger and got like 5 things that were gluten-free for like $100. I'm in college. I can't afford that. And I remember it just being awful. So that went out the window. But anyway, so I basically, I think I hired a different nutritionist at that point after the doctor, when I got sick, made me change. And I just Googled. I went on Pinterest. And again, there weren't as many options as there are now. Now I'm so thankful. Like I eat like I used to. I just replace things. Like now it's replace instead of find, right? I read books. I probably have 6 or 7 gluten-free cookbooks that I learned how to make things. And it was hard. It was the hardest. The hardest thing was trying to figure out what I could eat and what I couldn't.
So at the beginning, did you like hate all the food? Like when you were trying to make healthy, like did you eat vegetables growing up, or because you said you didn't really eat greens, like
No.
or were you not a really picky eater to start with? So
yeah, I mean, if it wasn't fried or tossed in buffalo sauce or covered in ranch, or like I didn't eat it. Like that's I didn't have any guidelines growing up on how to eat. I had a single mom. She, wouldn't come home early enough for dinner, so I would order pizza and like write a check from her checkbook. Not saying she wasn't a good mom, but we just didn't have healthy sit down dinners together, right? The older I got, I started, liking vegetables and things like that. But the problem is when you get sick and you have gut issues and they're like, you have SIBO or candida or you have thyroid issues, every diet for those topics all contradict each other. Every single one of them, yes. Right? So you can't eat broccoli because you'll, get nodules on your thyroid, but you need broccoli if you have SIBO, but you can't have it if you have candida. Do you know what I mean? So that was the hardest part for me, was because none of it made sense. And there wasn't any clear guidelines because they all contradicted themselves. That was the hardest.
Too, like when you feel so terrible, like I know you felt, I don't want to say it's easier, but you're so motivated to figure out what's going to make you feel better that I would imagine you'd force yourself to try things, even if you normally wouldn't have eaten them if you weren't sick. Yeah.
So when I talk to people now, and I don't judge people, like you do you, but if you get sick, call me, right? Like that's how I feel. Like I just want to be an example for this is what could happen. And, I had autoimmune issues that ran in my family. My mom has had thyroid issues for 30 years, but didn't know hers was autoimmune until I was autoimmune. Then she got tested and figured it out, right? I have an aunt that has lupus, and another aunt that has Hashimoto's, and another aunt that has Hashimoto's. So, and they're all the first born woman in our or female in our family line, which is weird. But none of that came out till I got sick. But I don't know. I went on a tangent. What were we talking about?
But I think too, because that is like, you just wanted to know the answers. Like you wanted to
yeah. That's the point. Right. And so now when I see people and they're like, oh, I don't want to stop eating this. I'm like, listen, when you get to a point where you physically can't eat anything, you will make a change. And so my point when I hear people give me pushback on changing their diet, I'm like, well, then you're just not there yet mentally. And you don't have the why figured out. My why was I physically would have died because I couldn't eat anything. I couldn't digest anything except these foods. So I could only eat these foods until I was healed enough to eat these foods. So once people understand their why to change their life and to change their diet and to change their exercise routine or whatever, it's never going to stick, ever.
Yes. Well, you have to have that like internal motivation and drive to be consistent, because these lifestyle changes that we're talking about are not easy. Like changing your diet, especially when you ate one way your whole entire life, it is very challenging. Right. So you found that the nutritionist was really helpful. Pinterest was good. Cookbooks were helpful. Yeah. Anything else that you did? Like, did you get any groups? Like, did you have any support groups that you used to share recipes or?
So here's the thing. I think a lot of people can relate, and a lot of females specifically, when it comes to any kind of issues that we're having, it's lonely, right? Like when I was sick and going through what I was going through, I had no one to talk to because no one understood what I was going through. Like just the average person isn't going to understand when I tell them like I can only eat like 2 things right now. You know what I mean? And I have no energy to like physically hang out with you. So I remember joining a Facebook group, like it was like a Hashimoto's like Facebook group. And it was the most depressing thing I'd ever been on because it created more fear than what I had, because everyone's trying to figure out how to be better or heal themselves. And it gave me so much anxiety, I had to stop.
Yes.
I couldn't. I can't be on Facebook groups like that because they don't come from a positive, this is what I did. It's just everyone freaking out like what I can't do. And I just couldn't do it. But now I love Pinterest. Pinterest is my jam. I love it. And there's so many people now that are posting on Instagram like healthy recipes. And I mean, I've just learned so much from other people and, these influencers that have been doing it. And it's just so much easier because you don't feel as lonely.
I love Pinterest. I'll get on there and I'll be like chia seed pudding recipe or like overnight oats or like whatever you're looking for. You'll get a million recipes and you can just like go through and figure out which one.
Do you know what I've been doing lately? I've been like, even in this quarantine, I've been cooking every night, it seems like, and it's driving me crazy. But I've really been thinking about all the foods that I've missed before. Like, do you remember Star Crunch? Like the Little Debbie Star Crunch? Did you ever have those? I miss those so much. And so I Pinterest, I looked up a healthier recipe and I made them the other night and they were delicious.
And they turned out well?
They turned out so well. They were hard. Yeah. Cause you put them in the fridge and it was gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, was all the healthy things. And, so that's been fun. It's like recreating things that I miss so much.
And that's the thing. I feel like it's not, like you said, it's not cutting out. It's like not finding something, it's replacing it. So if there's like, okay, I love mashed potatoes, but you're trying to do more of a low carb, like how can you replace mashed potatoes for things, maybe half mashed potatoes, half cauliflower puree, and not even know the difference. So I always think that little by little becomes a lot. It's just huge.
Yeah.
So now that you're feeling better than you were obviously 4 years ago, or I guess now 6 years ago, how has your wellness journey changed? Like, is there different things that you're doing to still try to better yourself from here? Or do you feel like you really have like found a lifestyle that works for you? Like, how does it look now compared to before?
Yeah, I think that when you go through anything that was like really hard, whether it be 6 months or a 2-year experience, you kind of have PTSD from it. And I'm not going to lie, I still have PTSD situations from that time of being sick. Like when, I had the fear of God in me, like I couldn't eat certain things. Like now I still won't eat it because I'm so fearful of what could happen when I know I'm going to be fine. But like my brain still connects that as a bad experience.
Yeah.
So now I feel so good and I feel so grateful. I want every day to be a better version of myself. Right. And so I try every day just to be a better wife, a better sister, a better daughter, just a better dog mom. Like I want to follow my dreams more. Like I guess the gratitude of coming out of something like that when I didn't think I could just changes your perspective on everything. So this quarantine has been awful. Right? Like we've been stuck at home for, I don't even know how many days at this point. But when I was sick, I was home straight for 6 months and I didn't go out to eat for 6 months. I didn't drive my car for 6 months. I didn't see friends for 6 months. So it's almost like that situation kind of prepared me for this. And a couple times during this experience, I've had to really meditate, like, because I kind of had flashbacks and it's like, you're not laying on the couch because you're sick. You're laying on the couch because you move today and you're tired. So I have to check in with myself a lot because it's easy to slip back into those experiences.
Yes. And some of the changes, I know you talked about some of the dietary changes, and I know you've tried a lot of other things in the wellness space.
Girl.
That you've really seen good improvements, like whether it's infrared or you mentioned massages or IVs or tell us a little bit of some of the other things, exercise.
I've tried all the things. So I got a biomat like very early in this sickness and I laid on it every day and I still have it. I'm looking at it right now. I don't use it anymore because it kind of gives me flashbacks of when I had to use it all the time, but I loved my biomat so much. I honestly did rectal ozone therapy where they stick a tube in your butt and throw like seriously and put ozone, obviously you know what it is. And ozone goes through your body to like kill whatever it was supposed to kill. That was the most traumatizing experience. I probably did that about 5 times.
Did you see improvements?
Yeah, but the anxiety of that just wasn't worth it to me. I did IVs for a while in the beginning just to make sure my energy was up. But I during my process of my sickness, my doctor overdosed me on my thyroid medication. You know this, and I was in the emergency room twice. And my EKGs were off, so I had to start seeing a cardiologist. So not only I swear to God, I felt like I was dying. I was 26. I can't eat anything. I'm exhausted. Now I have a cardiologist, and I wasn't allowed to walk for a long period of time. Like, I kept having to go back and do stress tests to make sure that my heart was working correctly. And I remember at my wedding, because I got sick right before our wedding, maybe a year or two before. And I remember at my wedding, I was dancing and I was like, what if my heart just like blows up while I'm dancing right now? And that's not a logical thought, but that's where I was, like, in my, like, mentally, because I was so freaked out. But anyway, when I was finally cleared to work out, it was a game changer for me. Working out makes me feel so good mentally. Physically, it makes me feel strong, but mentally, it just is so much clarity. If I'm stressed or anything, when I go in, I leave and I just feel so good. And I miss it so much. I haven't worked out one time in this quarantine. Not gonna lie to you, one time.
Have you gone for walks?
We walk the dogs, and we've been moving, so we're constantly like doing things in the house. So I'm active, but I see all these people like doing workouts and at home yoga, and I'm like, no.
It's hard. It's really hard.
It's hard to motivate yourself to get off the couch and stop watching TV to walk 10 feet in front of you and go do like a physical workout. Like, I'm just not there yet.
Walking has like saved me during this time. Like the sun and going for walks and podcasts and all of that. So what about the people that kind of feel, maybe not to the degree that you felt 6 years ago, but that just feel tired and they feel like they don't have answers on what's going on with them? Like, what are some things that they could start doing even today or tomorrow to kind of move forward on their health and wellness journey?
Yeah. Well, honestly, so many times I see people that, and I'm sure you do as well, they're having problems with their weight or their energy, and it's really not just something that like a workout and food is going to change. Like, you have to have a good communication with your doctor. If you're having these experiences with being fatigued all the time or uncontrollable weight gain, like, you need to do blood work and make sure your hormones are balanced, and you need to make sure that your thyroid is good and that there's no other issues going on, because just to simply work out and eat better isn't going to address like your underlying conditions, right? And especially if you're deficient in any vitamins and stuff like that makes such a difference. But if those things are not the issue and you just really want to make changes, you have to sit down and write down your why. Because if you don't, you're going to be one of the people that on January 1st start these new resolutions, and January 2nd, you've already broken them. And that's okay, but you have to understand that if you fail, you have to just try again. So many people I know are like, oh, well, I failed my resolution. I'm like, well, start again now. There's like, your wellness journey is a journey for a reason. It's not just like, I'm 100% doing all these things. Like, it's completely a journey. And I feel like so many people on Instagram create this false narrative for people, like, that I work out every day or I do this and I only eat like this. And like, it's just not fair to people to not show the real truth. And I'm going to be honest with you, like, I have had a really hard time with Instagram lately just because I feel like it's very inauthentic. And I want to just be very truthful on, what wellness looks like to me. And it's hard for me to see certain people and certain like Instagrammers and people that have huge followings just make people feel worse about themselves. And that's not going to move us all as a whole,
And social media is, I think, really tough for the comparison game. And especially in a period like this where people are quarantined and they're, emotionally struggling. And then they're looking at these people that have all these other things going on, or really getting some intense workouts at home and pouring sweat and making their green smoothies and, all these things. Is there any tips that you've done to like help with the comparison game that is so common in America?
Well, it's just hard because like, even during this quarantine, I don't know if you saw this meme that was going around that was like, if you don't how did it go? Something like, if you don't achieve the things that you've been putting off during this quarantine, it's not that you don't have time, you're just lazy. And I was mad about that meme for a good hour, because I'm not even kidding, because that is so not cool. Like, do you know what I mean? And I feel like on Instagram right now, some people are forgetting that we're in a global pandemic, right? Like, it's okay if all you did today was wake up and feed yourself,
Yes.
right? Like, some people live alone and they have, that's hard for them because they're not able to see anyone, and people are in their like mental health issues. So I don't understand why people want to, if you haven't learned, Spanish and how to conjugate verbs, then you're a failure during this. Like, that's just so inauthentic. So when I see stuff like that, I just have to check in with myself and remember I'm doing everything that I need to do for me. I'm good. My husband's good. My family's good. I'm okay. And that is all I need to be doing.
Yes.
Do
you have certain non-negotiables that you do every day? Like, are there certain things that you just make sure?
I've learned a lot more non-negotiables since everything's been taken away from us that I can't live without, right? Every morning I wake up, the first thing I do is have my hot lemon water. And obviously not only does that help with my digestion and my energy, but I don't drink caffeine. When I was earlier, probably my 15, 16, caffeine made my breasts really lumpy. I don't even know if that's the right word, but I would have like nodules and it just was so painful. And my gynecologist told me to stop drinking caffeine. So I don't drink coffee or anything like that. So my lemon water in the morning is like, that's my, everything's warm and good, like, let's start this day. I don't talk to my husband for 30 minutes when I first wake up. Don't talk to me. Don't ask questions. Just because I want to gradually wake up. Right. So that's a non-negotiable for me. And then just taking time for myself. Like, I'll take the dogs outside in the backyard for a walk, or I'll make sure I text or call a girlfriend, or, I try every day to, my mom told me this before I got married. She's like, every day when you wake up, pick one thing to do for your husband, to make him happy, to make sure that he's happy. And I was like, okay, I respect that. But like, I also need to do one thing every day that makes me happy.
Yes.
And so I make sure every day that I do that. And if at 11 o'clock I still haven't done it, I'm like, okay, what can I do to make both of us happy? Like, and sometimes I do, but I think it's just being aware, I think it's just taking the time to slow down and really be aware. If that's one thing this quarantine has taught me, is to slow down.
And then it's okay.
And then it's okay. It was uncomfortable for him. You know me, I planned 3 months out things, and it's been the most uncomfortable thing, but it's been so nice to be like, okay, what are we doing today? Not tomorrow, because we don't know what's tomorrow, but today, what are we doing? And that's been so refreshing.
Yes. Yes. What about favorite podcasts or books or things that people could listen to or read during this quarantine if they're bored? Any suggestions?
Does it have to be wellness related?
No, it can be anything.
Heather, the comedian. What's her last name?
McMahon?
Yes. Listen, my self-care is watching her Instagram and listening to her podcast. Like, if that's one thing I've learned during this too, is comedy and laughter is seriously the best medicine. When I'm in traffic, if I know I'm in traffic, I'll put on like a comedy special in my car and just laugh, because I try not to be stressed out about the traffic. Like, I want to laugh. And during this time, I've had to just watch anything funny.
Yes.
Anything funny, nothing serious. I'm not trying to watch like Contagion or those pandemic movies. Like, don't come at me with that. Like, I need hilarious laughter, like belly laughs. That's what I need.
So medicine too.
Yes. So my podcasts are really cheesy. I listen to like the Bachelor podcasts, but it's so nice because it just lets you like numb out for a minute.
I didn't even think I had a podcast.
Well, it's not like the actual, like the old Bachelor and Bachelorettes. Like, a couple of them have podcasts, and I listen to those. But you know what? I did download a history podcast yesterday. I was like, you know what? If I'm going to listen to this many podcasts, I'm going to listen to things on history. So the one I downloaded, I'll have to look up the name, but it's about like old Hollywood and like mysteries. And so that's kind of cool.
I became so obsessed with history after going to Vietnam and like learning all about the Vietnam War and everything.
Yes.
So is it just called history, or what is the podcast?
I can actually look it up. I went through, like, I Googled, because I didn't know. I was like, what are the top history podcasts? Because I wasn't a good student. I mean, I was in honors classes and I was smart, but I'm a very visual learner. I listen. It's hard for me to just, and I can read books and learn, but I learn better when I'm listening.
Yes.
So I was like, you know what? If I'm going to listen to this many podcasts, like, why don't I learn some stuff? It's called You Must Remember This, is what I downloaded.
Okay.
Yeah, You Must Remember This. It's really cool.
I'll have to look at it. Yeah, I don't have any history podcast, so I need to look at that.
Yes. Well, and I feel like I'm learning and I'm not wasting time.
Right. Which sometimes it's good to waste time, and sometimes it's good to learn additional.
Oh, do you know what else I did? I downloaded Masterclass. Have you heard of that, Masterclass? So it's like an online library, essentially, and I think they're doing specials. It's $90 a month, and then they give you another free 1-year membership. No, $90 a year, and then they give you one, and you can gift it to someone. And there's just like endless things on there, like experts teaching you how to cook. Like Gordon Ramsay has one on cooking, and Natalie Portman has one on acting, and I mean, it's just awesome. It's so cool. I've been doing that a lot.
Things about that. We looked at doing that with one of our family members as a gift. So I'm glad to hear good things.
I actually really like it. And they're short clips, so they're not, you don't have to listen to them for a long time. Do you know what I mean? It's easier to comprehend it that way. I love it.
Well, I'm so glad that you came on tonight to finish out the series. Any additional thoughts or comments? I think we covered a lot of ground of your story and non-judgmental approach to wellness, and your why, and being okay with slowing down, and the importance of meditation, and all sorts of good things. But anything additional that you want to add on?
I just want to preface that it's women, we have so many expectations for how we look or how we act, or, starting a family or whatever. And it's okay to not listen to any of that. It's okay to sit down and say, you know what, Kristin, this is what I want for myself, and I can achieve those things, right? And I do that once a year. Like, these are the 5 things that I want to achieve. And it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks about it. It doesn't matter what their opinion, because it's you, and what makes you happy. And whether that is working out or losing weight, or just trying to feel better, or taking trips with your girlfriends every year for, like, self-care and for joy, just stop listening to the noise and stop listening to the people that don't matter, and focus on you and what makes you individually happy, because at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Gabby, for coming on. And we're going to get this up on YouTube as well. And hopefully we'll have it in a podcast soon, so you can share it as well. But I really appreciate you taking your Tuesday night, putting on some pants, and joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. I loved it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Bye, guys.
Bye.